cameras are there to worship her, only to discover the host doesn't bow to anyone. In just 37 seconds of one disastrous comment, Meghan Markle went from composed guest to escorted security risk, and the whole thing was captured on live television. Jon Stewart had seen it all. Decades in the game, thousands of guests, every type of ego imaginable. But nothing could have prepared him or his audience for what was about to unfold on this particular evening. The stage was set, the audience buzzing with anticipation, cameras rolling as Meghan Markle made her entrance to polite applause. She walked out wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's cars, her smile practiced and perfect. Jon stood to greet her, extending his hand for a professional shake. She took it limply, barely making contact, as if the gesture itself was beneath her. The audience didn't notice, but Jon did. His eyebrows raised just slightly, a flicker of recognition that this might not go as smoothly as planned. "Welcome to the show," Jon said warmly, gesturing to the guest chair. "Thanks for joining us." Meghan settled into her seat, crossing her legs and arranging herself just so, making sure every angle was camera ready. "Well, I don't do many of these anymore," she said, her tone suggesting she was doing him an enormous favor. "But I thought your audience might benefit from hearing what I have to say." Jon smiled, that trademark grin that had disarmed politicians and celebrities alike. "We're grateful you made time. I know you've been busy with various projects." "Busy doesn't even begin to cover it," Meghan interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "When you're trying to change the world, revolutionize media, and educate the masses about real issues, every second counts. Not everyone can understand that level of responsibility." The audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the playful banter they were used to. Jon's smile tightened, just a fraction. "Right. Well, let's talk about some of those projects. You've been involved in several media ventures since your life changed dramatically." "Since I was forced out, you mean?" Meghan cut in sharply. "Let's not dance around it, Jon. I was pushed out of an institution that couldn't handle a strong, independent woman who actually wanted to make a difference instead of just waving at crowds and cutting ribbons." Jon nodded slowly, choosing his words carefully. "I think there are different perspectives on what happened, but sure, let's explore your side. What do you think the public misunderstands most about your experience?" Meghan leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Everything. They misunderstand everything because they've been fed lies by a complicit media that protected an archaic system instead of the truth. And honestly, Jon, I expected better from you. You've always claimed to be about truth and accountability. But here you are, asking me softball questions, like I'm some celebrity promoting a movie." The audience went silent. Jon's posture straightened, his casual demeanor shifting into something more alert. "I'm not sure what you were expecting, but this is generally how conversations start. We ease in, we build context, we have a dialogue." "Dialogue," Meghan repeated, laughing without humor. "Is that what you call this? Because it feels more like you're trying to control the narrative, just like everyone else. I came here to speak my truth, not to be managed by another man who thinks he knows better." Jon's jaw tightened. The crew behind the cameras exchanged worried glances. This was going sideways fast. "Meghan, I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to have a conversation with you. That's literally the format of the show." "The format of the show," she mimicked, her voice dripping with condescension. "Do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? I've sat with Oprah. I've done primetime specials watched by millions. And you're talking to me about format like I'm some amateur who doesn't understand how television works?" The audience gasped audibly. Jon set down his note cards, giving her his full attention. "Nobody's suggesting you don't understand television, but you're a guest on my show, and there's a certain level of respect that goes both ways. I'm not your employee, and this isn't your platform to commandeer." Meghan's face flushed. "Respect? You want to talk to me about respect?" That's rich coming from someone who's made a career out of mocking people on national television. At least I use my platform for good, for change, for helping people who actually need it. And you think I don't? John asked, his voice calm but firm. You think the work I've done for veterans, for 9/11 first responders, or for countless causes over the years doesn't count because I also happen to make people laugh? It's not the same thing, Meghan shot back. You're a comedian playing at activism. I'm actually living it, sacrificing everything for what I believe in. There's a difference between doing charity work for good publicity and actually giving up your entire life for a cause. John leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. You know what, Meghan? I think we need to pause here for a second. Because you've come on this show and made a lot of assumptions about me, my work, and my intentions. And you've done it in a way that's honestly pretty disrespectful to me and to this audience, who came here to enjoy a conversation, not a lecture about how superior you are. Superior? Meghan's voice rose. I never said I was superior. I'm just being honest about the reality of our different positions. You sit here in your comfortable studio, making jokes, while I've been hounded by the press, lied about, attacked, and driven from my home. So forgive me if I don't have the energy to play nice and pretend like this is all just fun and games. The audience was completely still now, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. John rubbed his face, clearly trying to maintain composure. Look, nobody's minimizing what you've been through, but you can't come on here and attack me personally because you're angry about other things. That's not fair, and it's not productive. Fair? Meghan stood up suddenly, her voice shaking with anger. You want to talk about fair? Nothing about my life has been fair. Nothing about the way I've been treated has been fair. And now I come here, trying to share my story, and you're tone policing me, telling me how I'm allowed to express myself? John stood as well, his hands raised in a calming gesture. I'm not tone policing you. I'm asking you to have a respectful conversation like an adult. That's literally the bare minimum requirement for being on this show. Maybe that's the problem, Meghan hissed. Maybe your show, with its requirements and formats and respect for the status quo, is exactly what's wrong with media today. You're all so afraid of making waves, of actually challenging power, that you've become part of the problem yourselves. That's absurd and you know it, John replied, his patience clearly wearing thin. I've spent my entire career challenging power. But there's a difference between challenging power and being needlessly hostile to someone who's trying to give you a platform to speak. A platform? Meghan's laugh was harsh. I don't need your platform, John. I have my own voice, my own reach, my own influence. I came here as a courtesy, thinking maybe you were different from the rest of these talk show puppets. But you're exactly the same. Another man, another gatekeeper, another obstacle to real truth being told. The producer was frantically signaling from offstage, but John waved them off. He was handling this. You know what, Meghan? I think we're done here. This clearly isn't working, and I'm not going to sit here and be insulted on my own show, because you've decided I'm somehow the enemy. Of course you're kicking me off, Meghan said loudly, making sure her voice carried to every corner of the studio. Of course you can't handle a strong woman speaking her mind. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The minute we stop playing by your rules, the minute we demand to be heard on our own terms, you silence us. John's voice was steady, but firm. I'm not silencing you because you're a strong woman. I'm ending this interview because you've been disrespectful, combative, and frankly out of line from the moment you sat down. This has nothing to do with your gender and everything to do with your behavior. My behavior, Meghan repeated incredulously. Unbelievable. This is going to make headlines, you know. Talk show host can't handle honest conversation with former royal. Kicks her off for telling the truth. That's the story here. The story here, John countered, his voice rising slightly, is that a guest came on this show with an agenda to pick a fight And when she didn't get the platform to monologue unchallenged, she threw a fit. That's the actual story. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair, her movements sharp and angry. You're making a huge mistake. People need to hear what I have to say. They need to understand what really happened, what's really happening, and you're too scared to let them hear it. I'm not scared of anything you have to say, John said evenly, but I'm also not obligated to provide you with a stage for a one-woman show where you attack me and everyone else who doesn't meet your standards. If you want to speak your truth, there are plenty of ways to do that. But this right here, isn't it? The audience watched in stunned silence as Meghan stood there, clearly debating her next move. Her face was flushed, her breathing rapid. For a moment, it looked like she might say something else, might launch into another tirade. But then her expression shifted, becoming cold and controlled. This interview is over, she announced, as if she was the one making the decision. Yeah, John agreed tiredly. It is. Meghan turned to walk off stage, her heels clicking loudly in the quiet studio, but she paused at the edge of the set, turning back to face John and the cameras. You know what the saddest part is? I actually thought you were different. I thought you understood what it meant to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. But you're just like all the rest, comfortable in your privilege, unwilling to truly challenge the systems that protect people like you. John shook his head slowly. People like me? You're a multimillionaire who married into one of the wealthiest families in the world, and you're lecturing me about privilege? That's rich, Meghan. That's really rich. At least I acknowledge my privilege, she snapped. At least I'm trying to use it for good instead of just entertaining the masses while the world burns. And I'm sure your $17 million mansion is a great headquarters for all that world-saving work, John fired back, his filter finally dropping. Look, you want to help people? Great. Actually help them. But don't come on here and act like you're some kind of martyr because people criticized you. Real activists don't need constant validation and praise. They just do the work. Meghan's eyes flashed dangerously. How dare you? You have no idea what I've sacrificed, what I've endured. You sit here in your bubble, surrounded by people who laugh at your jokes and tell you how brilliant you are. And you think you can judge me? I'm not judging you for what you've been through, John said, his voice softening slightly. I'm judging you for how you're acting right now, in this moment. And right now, you're being entitled, rude, and completely unable to handle even the gentlest pushback. That's not being strong. That's being fragile. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Meghan's mouth opened and closed, seemingly at a loss for words for the first time since she'd arrived. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. We're done here, she finally managed, her voice tight with barely controlled rage. Completely done. You'll regret this, John. You'll regret treating me this way. Is that a threat? John asked, genuinely curious. It's a promise, Meghan said coldly. The truth always comes out eventually, and when it does, everyone will see exactly who you really are. John spread his hands wide. I'm right here, Meghan. This is who I am. I'm a guy who tries to have honest conversations and make people laugh along the way. I'm not perfect, but I'm also not pretending to be something I'm not. Can you say the same? For a moment, genuine hurt flashed across Meghan's face, quickly replaced by fury. You don't know anything about me. Then maybe you should have used this opportunity to actually share something real instead of spending the whole time on the attack, John suggested. Just a thought. Meghan's composure cracked completely. I shared real things with Oprah. I shared real things in my interviews, in my speeches, in everything I do. But people like you don't want real. You want digestible. You want palatable. You want me to smile and nod and be grateful for the scraps of airtime you throw my way. Nobody asked you to be grateful, John said wearily. I just asked you to be decent. To have a conversation like two adults. That's it. That was the whole assignment. Assignment, Meghan scoffed. Like I'm a child in your classroom. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The condescension, the patriarchy, the expectation that I should just fall in line and do as I'm told. John looked directly into the camera, then back at Meghan. You know what? I'm going to be really clear here. This isn't about patriarchy or power structures or any of the other buzzwords you're throwing around. This is about you coming on this show and being unnecessarily hostile to me, my crew, and my audience. That's it. It's actually that simple. Nothing is ever that simple, Meghan retorted, but I wouldn't expect someone like you to understand nuance. Someone like me, John repeated slowly. You keep saying that. What exactly does that mean? Meghan waved her hand dismissively. Forget it. This is pointless. Talking to you is pointless. Then why are you still here? John asked genuinely. You've been threatening to leave for the last 10 minutes. The door's right there. Nobody's stopping you. You'd love that, wouldn't you? Meghan's voice was shrill now, her composure completely gone. For me to just slink away quietly so you can control the narrative. Tell everyone I was difficult. I was unreasonable. I was impossible to work with. That's what they all do. John's shoulders sagged. Meghan, I don't want to tell anyone anything. I just want you to leave so we can all move on with our lives. This is exhausting. I'm exhausting? Meghan looked genuinely shocked. I'm exhausting? You're the one who's been attacking me this entire time. Several audience members actually laughed at that, unable to help themselves. Meghan whirled on them, her face furious. You think this is funny? You think my pain is entertainment? John stepped between her and the audience. Okay, that's enough. You don't get to yell at my audience. Security, can we please escort our guest out? 2 security guards appeared from the wings, approaching cautiously. Meghan's eyes went wide. You're actually having me removed? You're actually doing this? You've been asked to leave multiple times and refused, John said calmly. At this point, yeah, dear, I'm having you removed. This is my show, my studio, and you're disrupting everything. Disrupting, Meghan breathed, looking around wildly as if searching for allies. I'm being removed for disrupting. This is unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. The security guards stood on either side of her, not touching, but clearly ready to, if necessary. One of them spoke quietly. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Meghan pulled away from them dramatically. Don't touch me. I'll leave on my own. She looked back at John one final time, her expression a mixture of rage and something that might have been genuine hurt. You're going to regret this. Everyone is going to know how you treated me. They're going to know exactly how I treated you, John agreed, because this entire thing was filmed. Every word, every moment. So yeah, let them see it all. That seemed to give Meghan pause. Her eyes darted to the cameras, perhaps realizing for the first time that her behavior had been captured in full. But she recovered quickly, lifting her chin defiantly. Good. Let them see. Let them see how the media treats women who speak their minds. Let them see how a guest treated a host who invited her onto his show, John corrected. Let them judge for themselves. Meghan turned and walked toward the exit, the security guards following at a respectful distance. But she couldn't resist one final shot. She stopped at the door, turning back to address the studio at large. This is what happens when you tell the truth in this industry, she announced loudly. This is what they do to you. They silence you. They mock you. They have you physically removed. But I won't be silenced. I'll never be silenced. You're not being silenced, John called after her. You're being asked to leave because you've been incredibly rude for 20 minutes straight. There's a difference. Keep telling yourself that, Meghan shot back. Keep telling yourself you're one of the good guys while you're doing exactly what the establishment wants. History will remember this moment, John, and it won't be kind to you. History will remember that you came on a talk show and picked a fight for no reason, John replied. But sure, make it about something bigger if that helps you sleep at night. Meghan's face contorted with anger one final time. You're a small man with a small mind and a small show, and one day everyone will see it. With that, she finally stormed out, the door slamming behind her with a resounding thud that echoed through the silent studio. The security guards followed, leaving John standing alone on the stage, looking shell-shocked. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The audience sat frozen, unsure how to react to what they'd just witnessed. John ran his hand through his hair, let out a long breath, and turned to face the cameras. Well, he said finally, his trademark humor creeping back into his voice. That was something. The audience erupted, some laughing, some applauding, all of them releasing the tension that had been building throughout the disastrous interview. John held up his hands, asking for quiet. I want to be really clear here, he continued, his tone becoming serious again. I don't enjoy what just happened. I don't take pleasure in having someone removed from the show. But I also can't allow anyone, regardless of who they are or what they've been through, to come in here and be disrespectful to me, my crew, or you, the audience. More applause. John nodded his thanks. We tried to have a conversation, a real, honest conversation. But from the moment she sat down, it was clear that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted a platform to air grievances, to pick fights, to prove some kind of point. And look, everyone's entitled to their feelings. Everyone's entitled to their perspective. But you're not entitled to hijack someone else's show to do it. The audience murmured agreement. John glanced toward the door where Meghan had exited, shaking his head slightly. I hope she finds what she's looking for. I genuinely do. But it's not here. And it's not like this. He paused, gathering his thoughts. You know, I've been doing this a long time. I've interviewed presidents and celebrities and activists and regular people with extraordinary stories. And the best interviews, the most meaningful conversations, happen when both people show up with respect and genuine curiosity about each other. That's it. That's the secret. There's no trick, no format, no agenda beyond trying to understand each other a little better. He looked directly into the camera, his expression earnest. What you just saw was what happens when someone shows up without that basic respect. And I'm sorry you had to witness it. I'm sorry it got ugly. But I'm not sorry for standing up for myself and for the integrity of this show. The studio erupted in sustained applause. John smiled, genuinely touched by the support. All right. We've still got a show to do. Let's bring out our next guest and hopefully have an actual conversation. As the commercial break music played and the crew